Just all alone. Okay, you guys see this pocket right here? It's absolutely full. You know what it's full of? Candy. Now, I want to get rid of this candy. You know anybody who likes candy? Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's have a little agreement. You like candy, I want to get rid of it. So let's see how we can work it out so that it can go from my pocket to your hands. You want to do that? Yeah. All right, so here's how we're going to do that. I'm going to ask questions. If you know the answer, raise your hand. I'll call on you. If you get the answer right, guess what happens? You get a piece of candy. How about that? All right, so we have been talking about the subject of connecting with God. You remember? We talked about how Moses connected with God. Now we're talking about how some other person. Does anybody know who the person? Oh, Elizabeth. She just raised her hand first. Joshua, is that your final answer? Okay, that's not correct. Lucas, can you help her out? We talked about Moses. He's done. Okay, Caleb? Joseph! All right, you were on the J's. You were close. Both of you were very close. Okay, let's see now. Moses connected with God. Now, after Moses connected with God, God wanted him to go and do something important. Does anybody know, Chloe? Go and free the Israelites. Good job. That's right. Okay, how about this? Can you tell me where the Israelites were? Do you know the name of the country they were in, Sean? Egypt. Good job, buddy. It's a good answer. Okay, now tell me, was it easy for Moses to do all of these things? I saw your hand first. No, why was it not easy? Tell me some of the problems he had. It was hard. Yeah, tell me one reason why it was hard. It's hard. Well, it wasn't so hard to get there. Come on, I'll give you one more chance to tell me why it was hard. I know it was hard, but I want you to tell me why. One reason why it was hard. All right, I'll give you one for having the right answer. It was hard. Now, Sasha, why was it hard? That's right. And was Pharaoh a believer in God, or was he not? He wasn't a believer, so it was very hard. Pharaoh didn't want to obey. That's right. Now, after Moses freed the people and they were going through the wilderness, why was it hard? Okay, Matt, I'll start your hand first. Not so much animals. Okay, I'll start your hand next. Xander.
Because they had no water and they wanted to go back and they had no food.
That's right. They were in the desert and they had no food and water. So who helped them? Who provided for them? Okay, I'll start your hand first. So they had no food and water. So who provided food and water for them? God did. All right, very good. All right, why else was it hard for them in the desert? Okay, Madison, one more chance. It was hot. Some places it was hot. So they didn't have food, they didn't have water, it was hot. Now tell me another reason why it was so hard for Moses. Miranda. I'll give you a hint. One time the people, they were picking up stones and they were ready to throw it at Moses. Do you know why? Okay, Abigail, why? Not that they thought he wasn't listening to them. Okay, I saw your hand next. Yes. Well, we covered that already. So they were mad at him. Good. You know why they were mad at him? Lisa. Okay, give me another reason. They had to cross over the sea, and they said that they were ready to go back to Egypt. Because in Egypt, even though they were slaves, it was much better. Okay, so do you think at some time Moses ever thought, I think God has forgotten about me? Did you think it was hard? Because he had so many problems. Now remember, God had a huge plan, and he wanted Moses to join in his plan. Now, Joseph, see, you got me saying Joshua now. Joseph was the same way. God has a plan for Joseph. God has a plan, and he's invited Joseph to join him. Now, let's see if we can remember our story. Joseph connected with God, and then immediately he started trying to connect with his parents, with his brothers. And what happened when he tried to connect with his brothers and connect them with God? Yes, ma'am? Okay, so they got mad at him, and at first they wanted to murder him, they wanted to kill him, and then they decided, no, we'll just sell him as a slave and make some money off of him. Okay, good. So he goes into what country? Who knows? Right here.
Egypt.
Into Egypt. Very good. And while he's in Egypt, he ends up in a person's house. Okay, have you go? Potiphar's house. All right. And now, Potiphar sees that Joseph is a good guy. He sees that Joseph is smart. He sees that Joseph is faithful. He sees all of these good things about Joseph. So Potiphar puts Joseph in charge of everything. The only thing Potiphar has to worry about in his house is eating and drinking. He doesn't have to do any yard work. He doesn't have to take care of the bills. He doesn't have to do anything but just worry about what he's going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Would you like to live like that? That'd be pretty easy, right? Just, you don't have to do anything. Well, Joseph was such a good administrator and such a faithful person to God that that's what happened. But while Joseph was there, something happened. Joseph had a problem. All right, Lincoln, what was the problem? Potiphar's wife wanted Joseph to be her man. The problem was she was already married to who? To Potiphar, that's right. So there was a problem. She was married to one man, but she wanted Joseph to be her man. Does that work out very well? And that's right. All right. So Joseph ran away, and when Potiphar came home, what did Potiphar's wife tell him? All right. Before you get all excited about the answers, I've already given all the candy away, so it's all gone. But you can still give me the answer. So what happened when Potiphar got home? Brennan, what happened when Potiphar got home? What did Mrs. Potiphar say to him? She said, Joseph tried to do something bad to me, and I grabbed him, and he ran away, right? And so where our story finishes, last week our story finished, and where was Joseph? Who remembers where Joseph was? Chloe. In jail, that's right. So in his father's household, when he was at home, okay, put your hands down. When he was at home with his father, he connected with God. God spoke to him. How did God speak to Joseph? Through what? Through a sergeant. Not through the high priest. We don't have high priest just yet. Okay. Xander. Oh, you got a mouthful. We'll go to somebody else until you get through a dream. That's right. So then Joseph shared that dream with his brothers, and they got really mad at him. Now, the brothers, they hadn't connected with God yet. And how did we know they didn't connect with God? Because they didn't believe. What else? Abigail. Their attitude, that's right. They were disobedient to their father. They lied to their father. They were ready to murder Joseph. They did all kinds of bad things that show that they didn't connect with God. They hadn't connected with God yet. Okay, so now Joseph is in prison. Now, do you remember? If you have your Bibles, go ahead and grab those now. Open up to Genesis chapter 39. Today we're going to look at Genesis 39 and 40. Genesis 39. So the first book of the Bible on the left-hand side. Genesis. It's the very first book of the Bible. Genesis 39. So we have chapter 39. At the end of chapter 39, starting with verse 21. And then we'll look at Genesis 40. So 39 and look for like verse 21, 22. Genesis 39, verse 21, 20. Good job. Okay, you found it? Good. Hold your hand there. That's what we're talking about today. So you know what the number one thing that people who are in jail, by the way, anybody here? Genesis chapter 39, verse 21, 22, right in that area. Have you ever been in jail? I hope not. My goodness. All right. So do you know what the number one thing people in jail, do you know what the number one thought is? Their number one worry? Yes, Caleb. Listen to the question before you raise your hand. Okay, Lucas. Well, they're not so much worried about dying, because all of us have to face that. There's one thing that they're worried about the most while they're in jail. Lucas. The wrath? Well, maybe. Okay? Now, just think, you know what happens when you go to jail, right? You have to leave your family, you have to leave your friends. You go into a jail, and so your family and friends are over here, you're over here, and you don't get to see them for a long, long time. Brennan. So what's the number one thing that they worry about while they're in jail? Yeah, and specifically, what about their family? That they're okay? See if Marsha can help. Worried about what will happen to them? Okay. One more, Brent.
Whether they're hurt or sick or something?
Well, maybe, but that's not the number one thing that they worry about. You know what they worry about the most? You know what they're afraid of the most? That they will be forgotten. That my family and friends will forget about me. Because I'm here and they're there. Would you like it if your mom and dad forgot about you? That would be kind of scary, right? What about if you didn't get to see your friends for a long time? Would you be afraid that they forgot about you?
Yes.
How would that feel if your friends forgot about you? It'd be pretty scary, right? Well, this is what happened to Joseph. This is what happened to Joseph. So remember, he was taken from his home in Canaan and taken all the way to Egypt. So he didn't get to see his family anymore. So I'm sure he was thinking, I wonder if they still remember me, or have they forgotten about me? Then he was in Potiphar's house, and everything was great. He had friends, he had a job to do, everything was going well. And then all of a sudden he was thrown in prison. And so now he's probably thinking, okay, now my family's forgotten about me. Now all the friends that I had in Potiphar's house have forgotten about me. And you know what? He may have even thought, I wonder if God has forgotten about me. Have you ever thought about that? No? He doesn't, that's right, we know that. But just imagine what it was like for Joseph. It was probably pretty hard to be there. Okay, so let's see what we learned this week about Joseph and overcoming loneliness. But before we do that, I want to look at our verse of the week. Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Read this with me. Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Even if you end up going where? To jail. Now, was Joseph wrong? Did he do something bad to be put in jail? No, that's right, that's right. But he was put in jail because Mrs. Potiphar lied. Hey, there's kind of a common theme there. Did we see about Joseph's brothers? What did they do? They lied, that's right. They hadn't connected with God. What about Mrs. Potiphar? She lied. Oh my goodness. So she hadn't connected with God either. Did you see what Joseph was trying to do with everybody he met? What was he trying to do? Trying to connect with them so he could connect them with God. That's right. So what do you think he did while he was in prison? Do you think he tried to do the same thing? Let's find out and see. Let's find out and see. All right, here we go. So while Joseph is in prison, in the chapter, in chapter 30, in chapter 40 there, at the end of chapter 39, in verse 23, it says, because the chief jailer did not supervise anything under Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made prosper. So who didn't forget about Joseph? God didn't. Maybe his family forgot about him. Maybe his brothers forgot about him. Maybe Potiphar forgot about him. Maybe Mrs. Potiphar forgot about him. But who didn't forget about him? God didn't forget about him. And so you know what? You know what Joseph did right away? Who did he connect with when he got into prison? He stayed connected with God. Good. And who else did he start connecting with? Okay. That's right. He started connecting with the other people who were in jail. He even started connecting with the head jailer, the guy who was in control. And you know what that guy did? Do you know who he put in control of everything? Who? Joseph. That's right. So just like in Potiphar's house. Remember when Joseph came to Potiphar's house, what did Potiphar do? He saw that Joseph was a faithful guy, and he said, okay, Joseph, I'm putting you in charge of everything. All I'm going to worry about is what I eat and what I drink, what time I eat and drink, and that's it. You take care of everything else. You pay the bills, you do the yard work, you're in charge of all the other workers too. Would that be pretty cool?
Yeah. Not really, because I don't want to be
You don't want to be in charge? Well, it was pretty cool that Joseph was a slave and yet he's put in charge. Now, why was Joseph put in charge? Was it because Joseph was just so awesome?
He was faithful.
He was faithful to whom?
God.
To God, that's right. And so Joseph had connected with God, and he started connecting with people, trying to connect them with God. Now, remember when Joseph tried to connect his brothers with God, what happened? What did they end up doing? They sold him into slavery. What happened when he tried to connect Mr. and Mrs. Potiphar with God? What did they do? They put him in jail, that's right. So is it going to be easy when you try to connect people with God?
No.
No. Remember with Moses, was it easy for Moses? No, it was very hard. But everywhere he went, he did the same thing. He tried to connect people with God. So when Joseph gets in prison, what does he try to do? Tries to start connecting who? People with God. That's right. So he's got a good relationship with the head jailer, and he begins to serve others. And God hasn't forgotten him. And you know what? God still is speaking to Joseph. Did you know that? How did God speak to Joseph the first time?
Through dreams.
Through the dreams. And where was Joseph the first time that God spoke to him? He was in his father's house in the land of Canaan with his family. So now some years have passed, and now he's in jail. And God hasn't spoken directly to him since then. And now while he's in jail, guess what happens? God speaks to him again. You know what he uses this time? What?
Prayer.
No, not this time. No, he didn't have the Bible with him.
Jailer.
Not the jailer. Not the jailer's dreams. God actually gives Joseph another dream. We're going to look at it in just a minute. Okay, so while Joseph is in prison, now listen, when bad things happen to you, usually what do? When bad things happen to us, usually what do? Usually what do we start thinking about? Oh, it's so bad with me. I don't have any friends. I'm being bullied at school. My parents don't understand me. I don't like anything. Nothing's fun anymore. So who are you always talking about? Did you notice that? Some people say that. You're focusing on who? Listen again. I don't have any friends. Nobody likes me. I don't understand my parents. They don't understand me. So who are you constantly thinking about and worried about? Yourself. Now what's Joseph doing while he's in prison? Is he sitting around thinking, oh man, nobody cares about me. It's all about me. Nobody loves me. What is he doing? He's thinking about others. That's right. He's thinking about how he can serve others, how he can help others. That's right. Because not only has Joseph connected with God, he started connecting with people. Now what is he trying to do? Help those people do what? Connect back with God. That's right. So usually when bad things happen and we start feeling lonely and we start feeling sad, where does our focus go? But what should we do? What should we do? If we know that we've connected with God, if we know that God loves us, if we know that God's always with us, and we know God's got a big plan, what should we do? Instead of focusing on ourselves, what should we focus on? On God and how to connect with others so that we can do what, Brennan? Connect them with God. That's right. And so we see Joseph doing that. So anytime you start feeling sad, you start feeling bad, you start thinking nobody loves you, nobody cares about you, everybody's forgotten about you, and on and on and on and on, what should you do? Just throw a big pity party for yourself? Stop focusing on yourself and focus on who? On God and others. That's right. To see how you can serve others. Good job. And what will happen with your attitude right away? Your circumstances, your situation may not change. Did his situation change? He was already in prison. Did he get out of prison immediately? No. But what happened? What changed? What changed? His attitude changed, that's right. And so instead of thinking about himself and I was put in prison for the wrong reason, I didn't do anything wrong, life is not fair, and on and on and on, he starts thinking about how he can serve God, how he can connect with the people around him, and how he can serve them. So, you know what happens? Usually we think if we do the right thing, things will get better, better, right? Well, what's happening with Joseph? He does the right thing, and things are getting what? Worse. They're actually getting worse. Remember? He was the most loved in his family. Then he ended up as a slave. And then he became number one in Potiphar's household. And then where did he end up? In jail. All right. So he started off up here. He's faithful to God. And he ends up here. He's still faithful to God. And now he ends up way down here. And what does he do? He stays faithful to God. That's right. Because what does he know about God? That God never forgets about us. That God is always with us. That he loves us. And that he has a big what? What does he have for Joseph? A big plan. That's right. And so Joseph remembers that. He knows that. So guys, do you know what a cupbearer is? We don't really have cupbearers anymore, right? But back in the day when they had kings, do you know what the kings were always afraid of? See, kings didn't make their own food. They didn't make their own drinks. They didn't make their own coffee. They didn't make, they didn't do any of that. Somebody else did it for them. So they were always afraid that somebody who would bring them the water would take poison and put it in the water. And so do you know what they would do with everything before they ate or before they drank? All right, Xander, come here. Come here. What a king would do was he would choose for the drinks, he would choose a cupbearer. And so let's say I'm the king. We'll pretend. And let's see, Chloe. So Chloe, your job is to make coffee in the morning for me, okay? So it's morning time. You go over there, make your coffee. All right, now bring it to me. You give it to me. Now, before drinking it, I don't know, Chloe might do something with it. She may have put some poison in there because she has a brother who wants to be king instead of me, okay? So before I take a drink, do you know what I do? I give it to my cupbearer and I say, okay, you drink it first. Now he takes a drink. If he dies, what do I do with it? I pour it out, that's right, and then I fire her. That's right. But what if he doesn't die? Then what do I do? Oh, he survived, so he made it. Okay, you can have a seat. You can have a seat too. So, Pharaoh had a cupbearer, and Pharaoh had a cook, a bread baker. Same thing with the cook. Same thing with the bread baker. Somebody would take a bite of the food and make sure it was not poisoned. Well, you can't be both. You have to be one or the other. Okay, so the cupbearer and the baker, they got in trouble. They got in trouble with Pharaoh. So do you know what he did? He threw them where? Jail. Into prison. That's right. Wait, who's in prison right now? Who's in jail? So who did they meet? Who did they meet while they were in prison? Moses. Not Moses. Joseph. They met Joseph. Now remember, what's Joseph trying to do?
Connect with God.
He connected with God. He's trying to connect with people so that they can do what? Connect with God. That's right. So while the cupbearer and while the baker are in prison, they're very sad. And they start focusing on themselves. Oh, it's so bad for us. Life's not fair. It's all about me. And they're really sad. And they both have two dreams. And guess what? One has a good dream, the other one has a bad dream. And they don't understand those dreams. And so they're looking around and they see Joseph. And they say, you know what? There's something about Joseph. He's smart. Let's go to him. So they went to Joseph and they said, Joseph, can you help us out? And why do you think they went to Joseph for help? Yeah, but why do you think that they thought to go to Joseph before anybody else? Lucas.
Because he knew God.
Because he knew God. What's he doing in the prison for everybody who's there? Lucas. He's connecting with him. Sorry, Lincoln. Connecting with him. But let's go to the previous slide, just so you see if you can remember. What's Joseph doing while he's in prison? He's serving. He's helping the people around them. So when these guys see him, they say, he wants to help everybody. We have a problem. So if you have a problem and you see somebody who wants to help, what do? You go to the person who wants to help. That's right. So both of them come to Joseph and they say, Joseph, you're wise. You want to serve everybody. You're helping everybody. Here's our problem. Here's my dream and here's my dream. And what do you think Joseph said after that? Well, guys, you're right. I'm the smartest person that you'll ever meet. And I'll tell you what those dreams mean because I'm so smart. You think that's what he said? No. You know what his answer was? He said, I don't know the interpretation of dreams, but I know who does know those dreams. The person who gave you those dreams, and Lisa, who's that person? God, that's right. So what's Joseph doing? He connected with him so that he could connect him with who?
God.
With God. Very good. And so he goes to God and he prays and he asks God to give him the answer to the dreams so that he can tell him. And guess what God does? He helps him. He gives him the answer. And so now Joseph gives those answers to the cupbearer and to the baker. And he tells the cupbearer, he says, okay, cupbearer, You're going to be taken out of jail and you're going to be restored and put back in your position. But don't forget about me when you go, okay? Don't forget about me. You tell the Pharaoh about me and get me out of this place, okay? Do you think that would be fair? If you just help somebody and that person's going back to their position and just to ask, hey, I did you a favor. How about you do a favor for me and help me out? Don't leave me here. Would that be right? Of course that would be right. But you know what happened? The cupbearer made a promise. He said, yes, you help me out, I will remember you. And then when he got out, you know what he did? He forgot. And you know how much longer Joseph stayed in prison after that? 2 more years. Can you imagine that? Wow, exactly. So Joseph helped this guy, and this guy totally forgot about it. But who was there with Joseph while he was in prison those 2 more years? God was. God was. Well, the bread maker actually ended up dying. So he wasn't there with him. All right. So here we have some life lessons, kids, that we need to learn. And, you know, you guys are young. You got your whole lives ahead of you. But these are some situations that you're going to have to face, like it or not. So here are a few things. 1, who is always with us? God is always with us. In the good times and especially when? In the bad times. In the good times, it's easy to remember God and say, oh, thank you, God, for making everything good. But what about in the bad times? It's not easy. Usually we get upset. Oh, God, why are you letting this happen to me? Why is this happening? Why? Me. So what do we do? What do we do when bad things happen? Pray. What else? Don't focus on yourself. Focus on God. Specifically how you can connect with others so that you can help them do what? Connect with God. Very good. What else? The verse we looked at from Joshua. What does God tell Joshua? Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Even when bad things happen, don't be afraid. Because God is with you. God has a big plan and He wants you to be part of it. And you may not see it yet, but it's going to happen. Same thing with Joseph. He's in prison right now, but God has an awesome plan. And He's going to use Joseph to accomplish that plan. The next thing is, how should we view every circumstance? Good times and bad times. What's our mission in life? Once we've connected with God, what's our calling in life? To focus on others, to serve them. Why? So that they can connect with us, and then we can help them connect with who? With God. Very good. So even in the good times, we need to think about how we can serve others and help them connect with God. And especially in the bad times, we need to think about how we can connect with others and help them connect with God. Very good. Very, very good. I have a couple of questions for you, boys and girls. All right, you ready for the answer? Do you know the answers? Well, you don't know. I haven't given you the question. Question number 1. Do you stay connected with God even when bad things happen? Yeah? All right. Good. Question number 2. Do you try and help others connect with God? So, like at school, do you talk to people and help them connect with God? With your teachers, do you try to help people connect with God? What about with your neighbors? If you're homeschooled, you have neighbors. What about if you play sports? You have teammates, right? What about if you just go to the park and play? Do you play by yourself? Sometimes. Usually, what do you like to do? Play with others. That's right. Well, guess what? That's a perfect time when you can help them connect with who? With God. That's right. Very good. Now, and the third question, do you trust God no matter what? Even when the bad things happen. Because remember, Joseph has been faithful to God, and where is he? Where is he? He's in prison. Everybody's forgotten about him. Nothing is going right. Yet he still does what? Does he still trust God? Yes. He doesn't know that soon he's about to be let out of prison. He doesn't know that. We do because we can read it, but he doesn't know that. He still trusts God the whole way. Okay, next time, we're going to learn about connecting with God and working hard. Do you guys like to work hard? Some of you said yes, some of you said no, right? Most of us really don't like to work hard, unfortunately. But you know what? When we connect with God, God teaches us to be hard workers, right? God teaches us to be hard workers. So we're going to learn about Joseph and how God used him and taught him how to be a hard worker. So, when you're dealing with loneliness and you feel like no one cares, what should you remember? God is always with you. Don't focus on yourself. Focus on God and others. Helping them connect with God. Good job. All right, boys and girls. Very good. Almost. By the way, you did much better today following the rules. Thank you for not talking, but keep going. Keep going. Don't forget about that. All right.